say the F word. Now I definitely don't want to say the F word. I'm not going to want to say the W word. I cannot stand this cold. I am missing my daytimes by the pool. And so we very much missing it. And I've got some things that are hopefully going to warm us all up today. I have some phenomenal guests. I'm very excited to welcome two guests that have come in from Italy that are here for a very special dinner that's taking place tonight at El Forno. So Joanne Colleen, a good friend of mine, I think she was just in Italy, literally got back last night for this special dinner that's going to take place. And the two guests that I have, the first one I'll be bringing in just a second, is Countess Bea Banasconi, who is from Capizzano Winery in Tuscany, and she is producing the wines that are out there tonight. Phenomenal, phenomenal history that she's going to explain to us. I'll obviously be able to taste some great wines, so like I said, I'll be warming up very shortly. My other guest that I have coming in kind of in the middle of this segment to talk about Thanksgiving. A lot of you reached out to me about Thanksgiving and Christmas ideas and thoughts. I even got some interest in doing some Hanukkah things. So I wanted to kind of take a special twist. And for this Thanksgiving information that we're going to provide, it's more or less along the lines of products that you wouldn't have thought about, things that you can add into your Thanksgiving feast. And I've got Kenny, who's the buyer for Dave's, that's going to come in and highlight some things that they're actually doing at a Rhode Island tasting day this weekend. So he's got a good dozen or more products that are all Rhode Island products that we can kind of interject into our Thanksgiving festivities. And then my last guest is Rolando Berendini, who is coming in from Manicaretti. Now, they are one of the largest Italian food importers. If I understand correctly, he's based in San Francisco. He is from Tuscany and has written a new book called Autotentico, and it is just out. He's going to be featuring the book tonight at the event. So we're going to be able to talk to him about the history of his creating this import business, but also how he came up with the book. And I think there's some unique things that are out there, and I'm always fascinated by cookbooks, so I think it'll be a great conversation with him as well. So to get things started, a lot of history, a lot of wine to talk about, I'd like to welcome in the Countess, please. We've got some great historical posters. Look at this. Cheese, bread, and wine. You cannot go wrong. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Let's slide these over a little bit. Perfecto. Ciao.
Hello.
How are you?
Very good,
thank you for joining me today. It's very nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Is this the first time you've been to Rhode Island?
No, I've been to Rhode Island a few times. I'm a very good friend with Joanne from El Forno.
Yep.
And I was a very good friend with George, too.
He was a wonderful guy.
Yeah,
Joanne brings us lots of good people, so we're thankful for you to be able to do that. And you spent the day kind of out tasting these wines today, right?
Yes, I did.
So I have to give a shout out to Armando, who's been a guest on the show a couple times. I know that you stopped up at Zuma, and I'm sure that he spoke a lot of Italian to you because he's very fluent.
Yeah, of course.
And he's a very big wine connoisseur. So Armando, you better be watching this and making nice comments right now. So we've got a lot to go over, not the least to talk and taste about the wines, but could you give us this overview? You have this wonderful, wonderful history that exists with your property that dates back to 804, which is not a date that people in the United States are used to talking about. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, even before that, the name Capezzana comes from Capitus. There was a soldiers at the time of Caesar. But the oldest document that we have is a document, as you said, from 804 that my sister found in the archive in Florence. And it's a document where they describe Capezzana exactly the same kind of farm as today, with wine production and olive oil production.
Wow.
So we can say that in Capezzana we've been producing wine and olive oil for over 1,020 years.
So how big is the property? Because in looking online and looking at the history, it looks pretty extensive.
It's like in hectares or acres?
Acres.
Acres. So it's around 1,400 acres.
Wow.
And around 220 acres are vineyards, and around 300 acres are olive trees. So the olive oil is a very good, important part of it. And we have a lot of woods, and we have some other fields. So it's quite a nice size farm.
So it's in Tuscany. How far? And it's Carmignano, right?
Carmignano.
How far is Carmignano from, say, Florence?
We are halfway between Florence and Lucca. So let's say we are about 40 minutes from Florence and 40 minutes from Lucca. So we are on the north part of Tuscany. But the Contini Bonacossi family, my family, bought the winery in the 1920. So I represent the fourth generation together with my sister, she's a winemaker, and two brothers, one in charge of the vineyard, the other one in charge of the olive oil.
Wow. So it's really a family affair.
It's really a family affair.
That's amazing. So you said 1920 was when you took over the property and came in. Was there was history that I read about too that also dated that the Medici family
Oh yes, in all these years, Capezzana had many different owners. We have some documents about this lady that in 1475 was running the state, was a widow called Mona Nera.
Okay.
We actually dedicated wine to her. And then the very important time for Capezzana and the area where we are, which is called Carmignano, was during the Renaissance, during the Medici time. Because this is when the house was built. Our area, the Carmignano, was the area where the Medici were spending their summer.
Beautiful.
Because it was quite near to Florence, and where they were going to hunt and where they were going and they were producing wine. So the Carmignano was actually one of the first 4 DOC in the world in 1716.
Really? So the Carmignano was kind of like their little retreat. They would go there from Florence and hunt and produce the wine and relax.
So there are many different Medici villa around the area, and we have two. We have Villa di Capezzana and Villa di Trefiano, but there are many nice Medici villa.
So if you've ever gone to Florence or you've traveled and or looked at up Italian history, the Medici family was a very influential, large family. And in the Renaissance, they were all about expanding the arts and culture and food and wine. So that's an incredible piece of history to have associated with the property.
I know. With another very interesting thing, Caterina de' Medici, when she married the King of France, imported in our area Cabernet. So we are the oldest area in Italy where we're growing Cabernet together with the Sangiovese. So it's been there for 1600.
1600. Yeah. And you said because of her marriage that came over with her?
Yeah, there was, when she married the King of France, there were a lot of relation between France and, so she exported a lot of things.
Beautiful.
Kind of food, and she imported Cabernet, just in
So we have to be
area.
very thankful to her for that. We have to be very thankful to her
So
for that.
Carmignano today is the smallest DOCG in Tuscany, but the only DOCG where we have to blend Cabernet with Sangiovese. It's not a choice, but it's a must.
It's a must.
From 10 to 20%, yes.
Wow. So some of the other state you said grows the olive oil.
Yes.
Now, Rolando's going to come in and he helps import your olive oil to the United
Yes,
States.
it's been imported for a few years.
So I'm very excited. I'll be tasting some of that olive oil a little bit later on in the segment, but there's some unique qualities to some of this olive oil, right?
Yeah, it's the olive oil. We are very lucky because we have our own oil mill. We have 30,000 trees, which is quite a big number.
Yes, it is.
But you have to think, when people say, oh my God, so you produce more olive oil than wine. No, because one tree produces maximum, where we are, maximum 1 liter
Wow.
of oil. So, for all the farm, we only produce maximum 30,000 liter. And but what is very important for the olive oil and the quality of the olive oil is the time of pressing. So because we have our oil mill, we can pick the olive during the day, hold by hands, and we can press in a few hours later, which is very, very important. We have 4 different kind of olives. We have a Frantoio, Moraiolo, Leccino, and Pendolino. And we like a blend. We tried to do single variety, but we like the blend better. And now it's a big feast because there is a new olive oil, the new crop. And I brought a bottle with me, which was on my suitcase, which was pressed last week.
Really? So is harvesting of the olives, it's a different time of year than harvesting for the grapes?
Exactly. It's quite, our poor workers are really, really busy because we finish with the grapes and just 1 week, get ready to clean everything, the oil mill, prepare it, and we start with the olive oil picking, which usually lasts about a month.
Wow, that's a long time.
It's a long time. There are a lot of trees.
30,000 trees, that's amazing. And you said there's 40 different varietals of olives on those trees?
No, 4.
4, okay, 4.
We only have 4 different kind of
4,
trees.
okay.
Yeah, olive trees.
That's amazing. Still 30,000 trees to produce that. So the quality of it is amazing. And like you said, you can press it any time when it's coming in.
Yeah, we'd rather to have less yield but have a better quality. So we start to press them very early. We start this year October 15. We are almost at the end of the crop. And so the acidity is very low, which is very important for the extra virgin olive oil. Because it's very, very important when you talk about the olive oil is the vintage. Olive oil is not like wine that get better on aging. So I always say when people go to buy a bottle of olive oil, they should always look for a bottle of olive oil with the vintage on.
Really?
The expiration date doesn't really mean too much.
Okay.
Expiration date means it's 18 months from the day it's bottled, but doesn't mean that it's, you can bottle a 2 years old oil and will last 18 months. So it's very, very important to have the date.
That's fantastic education, because with all my eating, I did not even know that. That's fantastic to know. So has the olive oil production been going on since the 20s when you took over the property? Has it been going on that long?
Yes, the olive oil has been on since 804. There's always been olive oil there.
That's amazing, absolutely amazing. So some of the history that we just covered, your father, okay, and this goes into the title. Your father also had a title as well, correct?
Yes, my father and my great-grandfather,
Okay.
he was a count, and so that was for long, many, many, many years.
So does the title, and this is one of the questions I got to ask, is the title hereditary with the family?
The title is usually hereditary to the family, but for example, you have to marry somebody that has a title, otherwise you lose your title.
You lose your title, okay. So the Countess has been nice enough, and everyone calls you Bea, right? So
Yes.
everybody calls, but you're...
It's short for Beatrice.
It's short for Beatrice, that's right. But you've got this amazing position in your family that you're the international ambassador.
Yes.
And you have the proprietorship with your family, with your siblings there for the winery. So you're all over the world talking about your wines.
Yeah, I love my job. I've been doing for over 30 years. And I'm like the Capezzana ambassador. So I travel all the time. And as you know, my brother and sister work very hard at the winery. And they make the oil, make the wine. But I really enjoy my job. I going around and introduce our beautiful product all over the world is something that is really, really nice.
And one of your daughters was traveling with you today, who's here?
Yes, she is. She is my daughter, Analu. She's managing the wine bar, which is actually a new project. I'm represent the fourth generation. She represents the fifth generation.
Beautiful.
And it's a new project, which is a wine bar that was created by her brother and two cousins 4 years ago. And they managed for a few years, and this year is our turn. So it's like their idea was to have a wine bar to make young people drink wine. So it's a very open 4 days a week. The menu change every week, sorry, and it's like a very local product, but made in a different way. So it's a really interesting kind of recipe.
So the wine bar is relatively new, as you mentioned, and this is one of the other things I was seeing out there.
That's quite new. And something older, other project older that we have is our cooking school.
Wow.
It actually was founded a long time ago. And Rolando was doing a director many years ago. We
Nice.
founded around 30 years ago when my mother was the president. And which is called Wine and Culinary Center, because it was a way to, in Italy, the culture, food and wine, they all go together. So we were having people for 1 week at Capezzana, and then we were sharing the culture of food, wine, and shopping and everything.
So Tuscany itself is a big area for tourists. I mean, Florence, everybody thinks about, but the whole region of Tuscany is renowned. So that cooking school has got to be, the cooking school, this bar, the tastings of coming to the winery,
Yeah.
you've got to have a year-round crowd coming to see you, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of visitors every year because we are, as you said, we have a wine tour, and we have the wine bar and the cooking school, and we also have some agri-tourists, so people can stay there and stay there for the week or for a few days.
That's
so
amazing. So for all of that information, because I know I'm going to get bombarded with this afterwards, so information to come visit you and see that's all things that's out there on social media or websites, right?
Yes,
People
we
can
have
look all
a
that information.
website, capezzana.it, and you will find all the information.
So I love that .it. Even when I got an email from Bea, is that at the bottom it had IT for Italy, so it was mobile IT. So I love seeing that. It's heartwarming to get that IT message coming in from Italy. So let's get to something very important. You got some wonderful cheeses and breads that you brought today that she got up on Federal Hill. She made a nice few stops up on Federal Hill, but let's get into the wines because you brought some beautiful wines here. So where should we start?
So we should start with the Bar Coreale. Bar Coreale was actually the wall that was surrounding the property of the Medici in 1716, and it was a wall that, and the name Bar Coreale comes from this document from the 1716, And this was my father's idea to make a young wine for Carmignano. So we started in 1984. It's a 70% Sangiovese, 20% Cabernet, and 10% Canaiolo.
Beautiful. So. Okay, so as I'm famous for saying, there's nothing wrong with that. That is absolutely beautiful. So, how many wines are produced on the estate?
We produce 2 whites, but now one is coming to the American market, a rosé, and 6 different final reds, which we have 4 of them here.
So you said there's one white in the United States, or one that's
No white
whites.
wine for the
Okay.
moment, only the rosé.
only the rosé?
And we also have one kind of white wine, which is a dessert wine, which is our Vinsanto, which is
love
available in the States.
Love Vinsanto. So I am going to be putting up, because I know people already asked earlier, where can we find these wines, how they're out there. The Countess was out today actually talking to several restaurants and new places. I know that Gasparo's on the Hill was one that was brought up. I mentioned Armando at Zuma. Al Forno I know is a great restaurant that carries this. So you'll be able to find some of these restaurants and things. We'll put links out there and make sure that we mention them. But beautiful wines deserve to be tasted. And the events like what's happening tonight are things that I want to mention that are occurring on a regular basis. And someone told me that once they heard about my segment, they called El Forno to get into the dinner, and they're like, told him it had been sold out for weeks. So I highly recommend that any of these things that you're interested in, get on people's mailing lists, check them out so that you get the notices and know, because events like this don't, they fill up very quickly. That was absolutely beautiful. What are we doing next then?
So the next wine is Villa di Capezzana. This is the most important label that we have, because it actually was designed by my great-grandfather in the 1930s. And because of this wine, we are very lucky to have vintage back to 1925.
Really?
Actually, during the Second War, when the German occupied Capezzana, they put all the older vintage into a farmer house cellar, and they plastered the wall of the cellar where there was a 41. Of course, they left one part of the cellar open, otherwise it would have been suspicious to be a winery without the cellar. But that was very good, because after the Second War, they were able to go back in business.
So they tore down the wall and brought all the wine back up.
Exactly.
Those stories, I've heard so many of those stories throughout Italy and France even, where
Yes.
that had to happen on a regular basis to hide the wine from the Nazis.
Yeah. And this is it's like the big brother of Barco Reale. It's a DOCG Carmignano. And this is 80% Sangiovese, 20% Cabernet Sauvignon.
So
it's
you're
a little bit bigger, right?
it's very bigger. It's much bigger.
You probably need old Sangiovese wines, which are the typical grape from Tuscany. They go much better with food.
Yeah, that's why I just had the piece of cheese as I was about to have it. But it's the finish is amazing. It's not overly dry. It's got a lot of fruit to it still, but it's a bold, big wine. So your sister, you said, is the winemaker. Does she change up, or how does she come up with the varietals, like the rest? She said this is 80% and 20%, right?
It's something that we discuss all together. But the Carmignano, as we said before, the low is from 10 to 20. And on this particular wine here, we like to use the maximum of Cabernet.
And does a lot of it base on the harvest too, like how much you're actually able to yield and produce?
Yes, of course. Sometimes you have some problem with one grape, so maybe it could change slightly from one vintage to the other one.
Wonderful. So 2 down. No complaints here so far.
So the third wine is probably my favorite wine, and this wine is called Trefiano, like the villa of the Medici, the other villa that we have. So this is Villa di Capezzana, like the Medici villa, and this is a Trefiano, which is another villa that we have. And Trefiano was my brother's idea in 1979 to vinify the 2 vineyards around the villa by themselves. So it's a very small production to compare to the Villa di Capezzana, only from 6 maximum 12,000 bottles produced, and only produced in very special vintage. Again, the blend is still a blend of Carmignano, so it is 80% Sangiovese, 10% Canaiolo, 10% Cabernet.
Wow. And this cheese is amazing, so I'm letting her do all the talking because I'm enjoying the wine and the cheese, and the education is absolutely amazing. So in getting this and talking about them coming in, are the price points all different? I know there's not exact numbers, but are the price points different?
This is like the lower price.
So the entry-level type price.
Entry-level wine, then this one, and then they go up.
So they all go up from there. So some of these you mentioned, like when we talked about the cellar and hiding behind the wall. What are some of the oldest wines that you have on the estate now?
So the oldest wine that we have on this one here is 1925.
Wow.
And we have 1930, 31, 37, 38. I think the reason is because my great-grandparents, they were art collectors and art dealers. They made a beautiful donation collection to the Uffizi Gallery,
Wow.
named after our family, so it's Contini Bonaccorsi collection. So I think their idea when they bought Capezzana, they start to collect few bottles every year. So we are now very lucky, and we can make vertical tasting back in 1925, which is quite unusual.
That is incredibly unusual. So you just mentioned the Uffizi. So your family has an area dedicated to them in the Uffizi?
Yeah, there is our collection was given to the state of Florence.
Okay.
And there is one part of the Uffizi, and where you can make a reservation, and you can go and see the collection, which
Okay,
is
so-
named Contini Bonaccorsi collection.
So now that I know that I'm going to be calling her next time I go to Florence, so that I can, the Uffizi is an amazing gallery in and of itself, but to see something like that, that's incredible history again tied in. All right, so we're on to the last one. I can't say I'm not enjoying these at
So
all.
when, as I said before, my brother Vittorio started to make 79 the Trefiano, and my father started at the same years, 1979. He started to make this wine. This wine is called Ghiaie della Furba. Ghiaie means pebbles, and Furba is the name of the stream where the first vineyard was planted nearby. My father was a very good friend of Eric de Rothschild, so when he wanted to make a wine, he found a really similar soil to the Bordeaux soil, and he decided to make a Bordeaux blend. So the first blend was a Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and Merlot, 1/3 of each.
Okay.
In the years, we changed a little bit the blend, and when my sister Benedetta took over the winemaking, we started to introduce a little bit of Syrah. So now is a 50% Cabernet Sauvignon, 25% Merlot, 25% Syrah.
That is a beautiful wine.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely beautiful wine. So these events that you're doing tonight with Joanne from Alforno, and you and Rolando have a great friendship with her, are these something that you try to do in different parts of the country as you travel to go about?
Yes, we've been doing a few things like this. Now is a new olive oil, so I brought some new olive oil on my suitcase for tonight. So we present this green and very grass and spicy olive oil, which we love.
Excellent.
We have a special restaurant make a special menu for the new olive oil, and then we're going to have the wines to match with the Joanne food.
Wine, olive oil, cheese, and I'm sure there's going to be some type of pasta from Chef David over there, so I'm not going to go wrong tonight. So tonight I will do a little bit of Facebook Live in between dinners, so I'll be annoying the Countess a little bit later on and having her come back on with me so we can talk about some more of the things that as we're pairing them up. But thank you so much for coming in today. This was absolutely wonderful to have you, and we're grateful that you came into Rhode Island again to see us. So cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Salute.
Salute.